Hello everybody, nitpicks here, and this is my review of the Watchmen film, which I just saw today. But before I go into the review, I want to explain something about my rating system. In my most recent actual, recorded review, the newest one, before this, I've been experimenting a little while with the rating system, what rating system, out of, to either go with out of 10, maybe the star system, doing gold stars like I did with the Dark Knight review, if any of you remember before it got removed. And I've been, going up and down a bit with the systems, although I settled on like a scale of 1 to 100 for, overall reviewing purposes. And I think I've just kind of had a bit of thought about how I'm going to do this and how I'm going to rate these films, and I think I just feel that I'd be better explaining exactly how how I rate them and how I score them, because I got this general idea from Trevor Reviews with Previews, which I'll link to in the description box right over there, because I think he's a great movie reviewer and very well-minded for his reviews. And he has a system of doing card suits with expressing both the quality and the kind of audience that would like his films. And so I'm doing a similar thing for the tens column, with 100 being absolutely perfect for everybody in every single way, no flaws at all, but generally from the tens column, there's going to be the general quality of the movie making, how I enjoyed it, how I felt it all came together, and how the quality, of how it all brought the movie to life. This goes for everything from acting to cinematography, to plot to pacing, character development, etc, etc, etc. And so, really good quality film will get, higher. Much higher score, like the tens column. For the units column, I am doing more of the audience perspective. How big an audience, how wide an audience would this reach out to? Who would really, how many kind of different people and what they're looking for in a movie would actually enjoy seeing this film? What kind of film is this intended for? And so something got 19 points, or say 29 points to be a bit better, because 19 being pretty rubbish, like something like maybe Paul Blart Mall Cop might be, that the quality of the film is quite poorly made, and it's not very good. It's not outstanding in any way at all. However, the kind of film it is and how it works and the general setup, if I gave it a 9, it would be a very, enjoyable by a lot of people, except for the more, you could say hardcore, but I don't like to express that because it kind of makes me look like a fanboy. But I'll just use it for lack of a better word, hardcore film enthusiasts who want a bit more from their movies and look into quite a lot of detail about, their films like I do. But anyway, on the review, Watchmen. This has been a highly anticipated of this year so far. I first saw it in some of the I first saw the trailer, something like October, when I was seeing Dark Knight, and I absolutely was hyped for this film, just so hyped beyond belief for this film, and I really think it lives up to the hype. In my opinion, it's really well done. In my personal opinion, it follows the plot of the comic book quite well. Although I don't think that you really absolutely need to see you don't need to have read the original comic to understand everything that goes on about it. It's pretty self-explanatory, and you can get the general gist of it, and it sticks to comics themes and gives the depth of the plot that comic has, without, overdoing it. The main thing is that it cuts out a number of subplots in the comic, like with the two lesbians, the Tales of a Black Freighter, the comic, which is being released as a separate DVD. Be warned, I'm going to say a lot of spoilers in this movie, because a lot of spoilers are kind of important to, how it's set up. But yeah, and how Hollis Manson gets killed, that's completely cut out, and the subplot with the you know, black psychiatrist and his marital problems while dealing with Rorschach, all that's cut out. However, that being said, while they are cut out and it did give a broad story and more depth to it, I don't think it really cut out much soul of the movie. The movie was still deep, the movie still had meaning, and the flashbacks and enough character development was left in. The key character development was in there, and enough of, you know, the storyline, how it's all set up, is done in such a way that it still is multi-layered. The characters are well developed. All the characters are showing up very well, more on that a bit later. They're all portrayed exactly as they are, and all brilliant, almost all brilliantly acted, and all this strong character development and strong acting and portrayal really gives the film enough depth and enough substance to everything to make it, you know, not feel boring, to not feel hollow, to not feel like everything's missing. And I actually feel that it is actually alright that this thing was cut out. I quite support the fact that Zack Snyder cut this things out, because in actual fact, I think if they were left in the movie, then I think they would have overcomplicated things, made it a bit too long, dragged it on, and it just would have alienated more of an audience, because there'd just be too much going on and less people would understand it. It's harder to follow in a movie going 24 frames per second, while in the comic book you can always flick back and forth. As I mentioned earlier, the acting is, I think, is brilliant. My favourites being Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan, because of their attitude and their very unique characters. Rorschach is a very he's fighting for justice. He's a true vigilante. He's an essence of street justice, if you will. He's quite violent. He's quite disturbed. You know, he's almost sadistic in quite a few ways, and yet, you know, still he's doing this in the name of the law. He's doing this for the greater good, and sometimes even the greater good isn't quite that. And he's very, you know, sticks to his guts. He knows something. He isn't going to give up. He isn't going to doubt what he really thinks. And Dr. Manhattan I think is brilliantly portrayed, because even though he's been from the transformation and death of Dr. Osterman and birth of Dr. Manhattan, he's been given such great knowledge and such great extraordinary powers and all this, and yet he still feels out of touch with humanity. He's very out of touch with humanity. He doesn't quite understand it. He's something more than human. He's got all these great powers to see through time and space, understand and control the very matter of everything, and understand such complex things, and yet still he speaks with quite a soothing, quite a calm voice to actually, you know, perhaps give those around him more sense of, you know, security, so that he doesn't alienate people than he already might do, because of how he's just completely separated from humanity. And I really like that this film was more character driven. Just Zack Snyder handled it brilliantly with all the character development and everything coming along, with all the flashbacks being in the right sequence and being just enough. I think the pacing was brilliant. Nothing felt too long. It all felt it was coming on quite nicely. It didn't feel like it dragged on at all, and all that. And the special effects are dazzling. They are beautiful, and the cinematography in this is brilliant. A few people have nitpicked, saying about the slow-mo shots and overused them, but it's not really overused. I mean, they're accurately placed, and it's only a few times, and I feel it's quite well done. And the special effects don't really, you know, take place in front of the film. And this is a little nitpicky things. I have a few nitpicky points about how some of the scenes were portrayed, and how some of the scenes and the character development has gone along, because it's not quite how the comic book handled them. I feel the comic book kind of handled them and developed some characters better. And I also feel that actress playing Laurie, the Silk Spectre 2, was fairly weak at times, and she didn't really come across with the bitterness and the resentment for her role that she's been given and her life. She doesn't really like much about what's going on, you know. She's not emo, but she's still quite a bitter person originally, and I don't feel that she really portrayed that. However, these points are quite minor, and all these nitpicky parts of character development which weren't quite, you know, as the comic book portrayed, especially the ending, because I actually felt the ending did better, because rather than a giant alien squid fighting, it's, you know, setting up Dr. Manhattan, which kind of ties in with events that were happening earlier. Which I think is great because it strengthens the story. But all these are kind of more nitpicky kind of things, and I think overall that this film is absolutely brilliant. Deep plot, great character driven story, not your average superhero movie, but I feel